Let's get into it. Coach Colin news. Oh, how the left eats their own. Oh, how the left just likes to nom, 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 nom. They stand right next to somebody and they hold hands and they go like this, and then they just they just start eating each other right away, because that's exactly what's happening right now. Oddly enough, I've done videos on this, and I just recently made a video on my main channel talking about the flow of money, how it gets down to the pro-Palestine groups, a specific group that acts as a student army called Students for Justice in Palestine, and how Palestine Legal actually helps those same students out after they get in legal trouble for doing what they're doing. And this actually extends to Antifa members and people who aren't a part of the college. As long as you were there and you were fighting for that cause, then you will have legal help or advice at the very, very least. Now, what company was those two organizations connected to? Tide Center. Tide Center is connected to George Soros's Open Society Foundation. Well, it turns out the Tide Center was working heavily with BLM. Oh, surprise, surprise. I love how just a week ago, Jimmy Dore was calling me an idiot on his show. And now all of a sudden it's all coming out. Well, the Tide Center was working directly with BLM. This is not a conspiracy. This isn't something you have to look up. They are actually suing the Tide Center for $33 million that they say they are owed from the Tide Center. This is wild. This is wild. It's that old saying, something's a conspiracy. If it's a conspiracy now, just give it 6 months or just give it 3 months or whatever. Because now it's all coming out. So the Tide Center is working very closely. And why they owe them the money is because BLM Global Network Foundation, I didn't even know that was a thing. I guess that's like the head of BLM. They gathered up a lot of money. It was like, a lot of people speculate at least $100 million, where 33 million of those dollars they kept with the Tide Center. And the Tide Center said, hey, we'll hold this money until you become a tax exempt organization, which sounds very sketchy. It's like what BLM Global said basically was, we will have to pay taxes on this money. Allegedly, this is just from my understanding. We're going to have to pay taxes on this money. And because of that, we want you to hold it because you're tax exempt. And when we're tax exempt, you give it to us. And the Tide Center said, cool. Now, let's watch a little video on this. It gives you a little breakdown, and then we'll talk about it more.
This is a unique situation in that we have two progressives engaged in what I think is going to be a very bitter fight. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is suing Tides Foundation, which is a nonprofit that manages cash for nonprofits who don't have status with the IRS, so smaller nonprofits. BLM GNF is saying that they entrusted $33 million to Tides Foundation back in 2020 when they did not have status with the IRS, essentially for safekeeping and for management of that cash. In 2021, when they asked for that cash back, Tides refused and said they were giving money to other BLM chapters. So the key question is, who has the right to the donations that came into Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation? So this is a big fight. One of the things that Tides has been in the news for lately is that it's acted as sort of a flow-through nonprofit for a lot of the groups that are funding the campus protests at Columbia, at NYU, at Berkeley. So very much under the microscope right now. What is Tides, which is an organization that has about $1.4 billion in its coffers? Like what is Tides really doing with the cash that is entrusted to them by these other groups, and how are they doling it out?
Very, very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting. And again, it sounds like, allegedly, but it sounds a little sketchy. Like, are organizations able to do that? Because, and this is just my speculation again, but you're taking in donations, or you're being helped to take in donations, but then you know you're going to have to pay taxes. So you're trying to avoid paying taxes. So you put it to this other organization. And then when you have the exemption to pay tax, to be tax exempt, you ask for the money back so you can just have all of it. That sounds sketch, you know? And then what else sounds sketch is, why are they getting $33 million? What? Wow, man. Jeez. And you know what the Tide Center, you know what happened with the Tide Center. This is just, again, this is what I think happened. The Tide Center's like, you're supposed to be destabilizing America. And BLM's like, yeah, baby, I just want to buy some necklaces and, you know, brother needs a house. I'm just, you know, we can't destabilize without, you know, getting ourselves together. That's all. We just want to get ourselves together, baby. We just trying to get ourselves together. Wearing alligator skin shoes. What's the problem, baby? Versace suit. What's the problem? I'm just saying, just give me the 33 million. And the Tide Center's like, I don't think so. You're not destabilizing America anymore. We have to give it to other places that are going to destabilize America, okay? And there's this Palestine thing going on right now, and we're going to put it there. Oh, come on, man. We just going to buy 6 more houses. I just want to buy 6 more houses. My mama need a house. I thought you said your brother. Him too. I just want a little piece of land in Florida. I just want a little bit in Utah. You know what I mean? Shake it up with them white folks. Oh, come on, baby. It's 33 million. We gonna spend like 15 million. That's all. Then the rest of it, we gonna go right back to destabilizing America. Don't worry about it. There's a drug dealer that got shot. We gonna raise hell over him. I promise you, baby. Oh, there's gonna be some black people mad about that in the comment section. One day someone's gonna pull up that clip. They're gonna be like, "This is Coach Colin imitating a black person. Although he's black, it is still insulting. He was referencing the group BLM, and he was acting like he was BLM in this clip. Also insinuating that Jewish George Soros was funding the." No more insinuation, folks. They were at the a lot of people say funding, at the very least working together. At the very least. To the tune of $33 million. And there was more where that came from. That couldn't have been all the money. We know it wasn't all the money because we already heard about all the founders and people at the top buying mansions, paying a brother or a family member, you know, an exorbitant amount of money as security. You know, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. And when I say interesting, I mean, what? I mean, who's going to jail? That's what I mean when I say interesting. Who's getting locked up? You know, treat them like J6ers. No? Listen, either treat the J6ers like BLM protesters or treat the BLM protesters like J6ers. Come on. We got to have some, you know, got to have some continuity here. Now let's just look at this article really quick. So I already went over some of this in some of the other videos that I did, but according to, no, I should go up here first. So the Tide Center acts as a fiscal sponsor, mainly for groups that don't have the tax exempt status in the wake of the George Floyd. BLM Global received tens of millions in donations, having not yet obtained tax exempt status. It turned to Tides to help out. See what I mean? So at the very least, the very, very least, working together. Maybe you can't say funded. Maybe you don't want to say funded. At the very, very least, they're working together. And that company, the Tide Center, is not completely funded by George Soros. You know, I do have to be clear about that, but it is heavily funded by, and again, I'll be clear about it, not directly from George Soros, but from the Open Society Foundation, which was founded by George Soros. Got to be very clear about that. See, now what I think the Tide Center actually is, the Tide Center does a lot of helping these grassroots, you know, I don't want to say civil rights, but I'm just going to use that just as a placeholder. Those type of social justice is what we'll say instead. The social justice type of organizations, the Tide Center is seen giving to those type of organizations, where the Open Society Foundation is seen giving a lot of grants, funding a lot of schools, doing things like that. I almost want to say, just my opinion, it's almost like the Tide Center does things that the Open Society Foundation doesn't want to be seen doing. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like they're an arm. Not because it's not owned by George Soros, the Tides Foundation. Be clear, it's not owned by him, but it definitely helps along whatever ideology he has. According to the Tides lawsuit, verbally agreed that they will return the money to BLM once it became tax exempt. A Tides official said in June 2022 that the foundation had transferred $7.4 million from the collective fund to BLM Global. Some of that money, though, $4.7 million, was transferred to an unaffiliated group in Oklahoma City. Now, I'm pretty sure that group is ran by somebody named Melina Abdullah. I'm pretty sure. It is unclear why such a large amount was granted to a single BLM chapter. How many chapters are there? See, and this is the thing, that Students for Justice in Palestine is the same thing as BLM. They have all, where the Students for Justice in Palestine, they have a bunch of campuses. BLM just has a bunch of chapters. It's the same thing. And when they're told to activate, they activate, and things go crazy. Among those who were granted donations without BLM Global's approval was Radical Grassroots Group. Oh, and that was her founder. Okay, so she's BLM Grassroots. She's the founder. Her name is Melina Abdullah. She attempted to sue BLM Global in 2023 to obtain the funds, but she was ordered to pay $700,000 in legal fees when the case got tossed. Very interesting. Now, in the same post, however, a spokesperson for Tides explained that BLM's donations were never intended to be granted to a large, well-funded organization or national organizations like BLM Global Network Foundation, and were always intended to be granted to local BLM chapters. Very, very interesting. So even the Tide Center was like, you guys got too much money. We're going to give it to the smaller people. And BLM Global's like, we'll do that. Just give us the money. We'll do it ourselves. It's fine. I don't want no white man giving BLM money. It has to come from black hands. Give it. Give me. Oh, these are jokes, folks, no matter how true they are. The nonprofit accused BLM of seeking to circumvent the intent of the fund's donors and deprived grassroots BLM chapters from critical resources for its own benefit. Wow. I would love to talk to some of these BLM chapters because they seem to know a whole lot about this. And I wish they would come forward in a big way because they could out the whole thing even more, you know? But again, just wanted to bring you guys that story. It's very interesting to see what happens. I'll keep you updated on it. We'll see who wins the case, because I doubt that something, first off, like that woman said in the video, they have access, Tide Center have access to $1.4 billion. They're not going to lose this case. If BLM Global needs money and they have $1.4 billion, they're just going to be like, no. And the funny thing is, they have $1.4 billion. So why wouldn't they just give that to BLM and expect them to give that to their chapters? What does the Tide Center know about BLM Global that they refuse to give them the money? Is it because they feel like the money's not going to make it to the places they want it to make it to? I think that little sketch that I made up is true. Tide Center's like, we have work to do. The election's coming up. And BLM Global's like, I know, but have you ever been to Barbados? It's so nice this time of year. We just want to buy some land out there, start a chapter, we're just trying to, defeat capitalism. I just want to defeat capitalism. Just give me some more money. Give it. Very interesting. I'll keep you guys updated on this whole thing, but let me know what you think in the comments about all this. This is done being a conspiracy. It is done. And I know a lot of people were done with it being a conspiracy, but now the actual places where the money is flowing from being kept. What happened is actually coming to light because they actually had to sue somebody. So I'm going to be reading more into this case, and this Tide Center stuff goes very, very deep, very deep. So helping BLM is currently helping the pro-Palestine movement. What else have we seen erupt in the nation that they may or may not have had a hand in? Or they may have actually helped along? What else? How many things are they involved in? I have the list of what they donate to and who donates to them. Got to look into it a little deeper. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, share. It helps tremendously. You have no idea. And other than that, I'm out.